In this lesson, we're going to be talking about making a circle graph. Before we do that, though, I want to go back and review um, from our last lesson about making a bar graph because we're going to be using the same information to create our circle graph. A couple things to remember about a bar graph. In a bar graph, we want to first of all give ourselves a title. In this case, the title of our bar graph was the favorite colors of room 122. Again, not very exciting, but it gave us some good information to use to make a bar graph. And we found that given the three choices, red, blue, and green, 5 students liked red, 7 liked blue, and 3 liked green. On our graph itself, we have two different parts of it. One is called the x-axis and one is called the y-axis. On the x-axis, we have our choices, in this case, red, blue, and green. And on the y-axis, we have the number of students who made those choices. When you set up your graph, you want to make sure that things are balanced and even. For example, we decided that rather than just using one bar for each one of our choices, we could use 2 because we had the space. And then also for the rows, what are you going to skip count by? And remember, the intervals have to be the same. In our case, since our highest value was 7 and our graph had 8 rows, we could skip count by 1. But you'll notice that a lot of graphs will skip count by 5s or 10s or even a strange number like 3 or 4 or 7. It doesn't make a difference as long as they're all the same. So that's our bar graph representing our numbers. And today we're going to take that information and create a circle graph. So I've got those choices, again, the same as yesterday. And for today, it's important for us to also have the total. Again, we did that yesterday and I said it was going to be important. So if you add these three choices, 5, 7, and 3, that gives us a total of 15 students who had this, who supplied our data. Our title stays the same, favorite colors of room 122. Again, we're just showing it in a different way, in this case, a circle graph. And we should probably create a circle. It's very important to have a point in the center of our circle. And then I'm going to draw a circle around that with my circle tool. And we'll have it be about that big. Okay, so we have the circle ready to go. We have our information ready to graph. And then I've also got a couple tools. One of them is the percent circle. Another one is a calculator. What we need to do is take this information, first change it into a decimal or into a fraction, and then a decimal, which will give us our percent. So 5, we know that the total for the whole, is 15. So that would be my denominator for each one of my choices. And 15. And it's simply 5/15 for red, 7/15 for blue, and 3/15 for green. And when we take these fractions and we change them into decimals, I'm going to select them and move them out of, oops, I don't want to do that. I'm going to select them and move them out of the way a little bit. Put them down here. So 5/15, and this is where the calculator is going to come in handy. It's important to remember when you change a fraction into a decimal, this fraction bar, is a division sign. We always divide the numerator by the denominator. So we're dividing a smaller number by a bigger number, so we know it's going to be less than 1. 5 divided by 15 gives us the answer of 333 thousandths. Write that. And 7 divided by 15 gives us the answer of 466 thousandths. And then finally, 3 divided by 15 gives us the answer of 2/10. Okay, so we're done with our calculator. We don't need him anymore. So we need to take these decimals and change them into percents. Well, the rule is that whatever's in your hundredths is your percent. So in this case, it's 33 hundredths. But we always check that thousands position to see if we should round this up, in this case, to 34. And the answer for that is no. So for our red, we have the percent of 33%. For blue, again, we're looking at the hundreds and we're peaking at the thousands. In this case, we have 6,000. That's going to change our 46% to 47% because we're going to round it up because of the 6. So for blue, it is 47%. All right. And then finally for our green, we ended up with, when we did our division, we ended up with the decimal 2/10. Well, 2/10 is the same as 20/100ths, which is the same as 20%. Not 2%, but 20%. All right, now it's time to build our percent circle graph. So this is where we use our percent tool. And what I first want to do is draw a straight line from the center of the circle to the edge, and it doesn't matter where it goes. I'm going to just go straight up. And this again is a radius, and this is where our starting point for our first percent, in this case we'll do red first, is going to go. So I pull my percent circle over, and I need to make sure I make it a little bit bigger so it's easier to read. And I'm also going to make it a little bit darker so we can see the numbers better. Let's make it a little bit darker. There we go. So what we want to do is find the equivalent percent on our percent circle. There's 25, there's 30, there's 35 is right there. So 33% would be right about this line right here. And you can see that the percent circle also has fractions that that are on this. This in this case is 1/3. Well, if you looked at the fraction 5/15ths, that is the same as 1/5. No, that is the same as 1/3, excuse me, and that matches up. So that works for our percent. So let's move him out of the way for right now, and we need to draw another straight line, radius, from the center of the circle through that point. Move it up so I hit the point. And that represents 33%. So I'm going to write 33%. And that would be red. It's important to label your choices too so people know. Just clone that and bring him into that circle. So 33% chose red. The next one is 47% for blue. And now when we put our percent circle back into the center of the circle, we need to rotate it so the 0 mark right here is at our new starting point. So our new starting point is right there. And then now what we need to do is find the 47 mark. It should be near 50. There's 45, 46, 47, right about there. And then again, I'm going to move this out of the way, and we're going to draw a straight line that goes through that point, a radius from the circle through that point. And there it is. And this is 47%. And that's for blue. Clone him. And bring that in the center. Now the better choice would be to actually use the colors red and blue, but that's taking too much time. Now since this is the only piece left, this is only 3 colors that we're choosing, this should be about 20%. So we can check it with our percent circle, see how closely we were. How closely we measured. Rotate it around again. And we're close. There's the 20% and there's our line. So we're done with this. And this would be the 20% for green. And let's take the green. 20% green. So we have now a circle graph that represents our same information that we gathered yesterday of our favorite color choices. This is the circle graph, and this is the bar graph of the same information.